Thomas, Clara, Jordan, and little Lucy Monroe were the picture of an ordinary American family till the morning their lifeless bodies were discovered. Inside, apartment 154, each murdered with chilling precision. No forced entry, no known enemies. No motive. The snow had fallen thick overnight, blanketing cars and rooftops, softening every sound. She mentioned to the building manager that the Monroe family hadn't been seen in 2 days. Their dog, a golden retriever named Buddy, usually barked every morning when school buses passed by. That noise had stopped. The trash cans, normally wheeled to the curb every Sunday evening, still stood next to the garage, overflowing. What they found inside apartment 154 was far worse than anyone could have imagined. The entire Monroe family, Thomas, Clara, 15-year-old Jordan, and 9-year-old Lucy, were found dead in different parts of the apartment. Each had been murdered with brutal efficiency. Their bodies bore no signs of a struggle. No evidence that they had tried to fight back. No overdue bills, no secret credit cards, no strange phone calls. There were no signs of domestic disputes, no child welfare reports, and no unusual activity in their financial history. The last transactions on their bank accounts were mundane. Groceries, gas, a fast food meal, a small Amazon order. Nothing pointed to any tension or brewing danger. Investigators checked their social media accounts, emails, and text message logs. Again, nothing stood out. Clara had recently posted a photo of Lucy's winning art project. Thomas's last text had been to a coworker asking to trade a weekend shift. Everything pointed to a family living an ordinary life. Thomas and Clara were found in the bedroom, side by side on the floor. There were no bloody footprints, no foreign hairs, no fibers out of place. It was as though whoever committed the murders had known exactly what to do and had done it without leaving a trace. Jordan was in the hallway, as if he had been trying to run. Lucy was in the bathtub, fully clothed, with the water still and cold around her. There was no sign of life, but also no sign of panic, just a heavy, creeping silence. Expensive electronics sat untouched. Jewelry remained in plain sight. There was no sign of forced entry, no broken windows, no damaged locks. The Monroes weren't outsiders. They weren't involved in anything questionable. By all accounts, they were the kind of family people wanted as neighbors, quiet, respectful, friendly, but private. Thomas Monroe, 42, worked as a mechanic at Halderman's Auto Service, a shop that had been in town for over 2 decades. His coworkers described him as reliable and friendly, someone who kept to himself but was always willing to lend a hand. Clara, 39, volunteered twice a week at the local library and helped organize reading programs for children. She was well-liked and known for her calm demeanor and warm smile. Their children, Jordan and Lucy, were both students at nearby public schools. Jordan played on the junior varsity basketball team. Lucy had recently won a school art contest for a drawing of her family on a picnic. Nothing about their lives suggested they had enemies. One investigator would later say the apartment felt like a staged horror scene, calculated, emotionless, and deeply disturbing. The only sound left in the apartment, aside from the low static of the television, was the slow, rhythmic drip of a leaking kitchen faucet. Outside, snow continued to fall gently, covering the sidewalk in white, erasing every footprint. Inside, a nightmare had unfolded in silence. Neighbors on their way to work noticed something odd. Apartment 154 looked untouched by the morning. The family car, a red Honda Civic, sat unmoved, its windows fogged over. Cushions were slashed open. The television was still on, showing static. The kitchen floor was slick with what looked like a dark liquid. Rich stepped back and called 911 immediately, never stepping any farther inside. The front porch light was still on, even though the sun had already begun to rise behind a veil of thick gray clouds. For a family known to be early risers, this was strange. But as investigators dug deeper, uncovered something far more terrifying than a random act of violence. The Monroes had been watched, stalked, and ultimately slaughtered by someone who had been living inside their home the entire time. It was an unusually quiet morning on Shady Pines Drive, Dugged, a cul-de-sac tucked into the sleepy suburban sprawl of Beavercreek, Ohio. Mrs. Hepler, who lived 2 doors down, was the first to say something. Around 10 a.m., a maintenance worker named Rich Stevens was sent to inspect a water leak reported by the tenant living directly below, apartment 154. Water had been dripping through the ceiling into her kitchen light fixture. When Rich knocked on the Monroe's door, there was no answer. But something was off. The door wasn't latched properly, creaked open under the weight of his knock. What he saw inside froze him in place. The living room was in shambles. A lamp had been knocked over. Police arrived within minutes and sealed off the entire building. Despite the sheer violence of the murders, nothing appeared to be stolen. In the days following the discovery of the Monroe family's murder, Beavercreek was gripped by confusion and fear. As detectives combed through the Monroe's records, they found nothing suspicious. The physical evidence from the apartment offered few clues. Fingerprints in the home all matched the family. No unknown DNA was found in the initial sweep. There were no bloody footprints, no foreign hairs, no fibers out of place. It was as though whoever committed the murders had known exactly what to do and had done it without leaving a trace. Neighbors were shaken. Some began adding security cameras to their homes. Parents kept their children closer. In its place was a faint rectangular imprint in the dust. Clara had often posted pictures of her children, but the physical album filled with years of memories was gone. Other family heirlooms like jewelry and keepsakes remained untouched. He had been charged with trespassing, vandalism, and drug possession. One recalled seeing a man matching his description enter the Monroe apartment late at night about a month prior to the murders. 2 days before the murders, a man who resembled Draper was seen buying bleach, rubber gloves, and garbage bags. The footage was grainy and didn't show his face clearly, but his build, clothing, and posture matched Draper's known description. When police attempted to locate him, they discovered he hadn't used his bank accounts or phone since the night of the murders. The videos were grainy, shaky, and poorly lit, but what they revealed was undeniable. Someone had been living inside apartment 154 long before the murders and had never truly left. The footage began shortly after the Monroes moved in. It captured the family going about their lives, completely unaware they were being recorded. The camera appeared to shift locations, suggesting it was being moved between hidden crawl spaces and vents. There were clips from inside the kitchen cabinets, behind the walls, even from within a ceiling panel above the children's bedroom. It was as if he had vanished. Whoever had taken these videos had memorized the family's routine. The footage showed what time the children woke up when Clara left to volunteer, and the exact moment Thomas usually returned home from work. Some clips were hours long, recorded in complete silence, as if the camera was simply left running while the family slept or watched television. In one particularly disturbing video, the camera was aimed down through a vent into the parents' bedroom. It remained still for 6 hours. At the time, they assumed he was a visiting relative or friend. No one had questioned it. In the master bedroom, hidden beneath a false bottom in the dresser, they found a USB flash drive. It had been taped to the underside of the drawer, almost missed in the initial sweep. The drive was password protected and required FBI assistance to access. There was also a restraining order filed against him in Cleveland by a woman named Paige Leary. She claimed Draper had followed her home from work, left unwanted gifts at her door, and once attempted to enter her apartment uninvited. The court had granted her a protective order, and Draper had reportedly moved away soon after. The absence of the album wasn't enough to explain a quadruple homicide, but it was something. Small crack in an otherwise perfect surface. And in a case where nothing made sense, even the smallest inconsistency mattered. Rumors swirled. Maybe it was a burglary gone wrong, maybe it was someone from out of town, maybe it was personal. But each theory crumbled under scrutiny. Nothing had been stolen. There were no signs of outside intrusion. Dozens of video files had been recorded over the past several months. The footage showed a camera being operated from inside the apartment peeking through vents, behind walls and under furniture. The Monroe family had been watched, secretly, repeatedly, even while they slept. Detectives had followed every obvious lead, only to come up empty. With no motive, no signs of forced entry, and no useful forensic evidence, the case began to shift in a new direction. Rather than ask who might have wanted to hurt the Monroes, investigators began to ask who might have been close to them physically, if not personally. And no one, not a single neighbor or acquaintance, could think of a reason why someone would want to hurt the Monroes. When the Monroes signed their lease 8 months earlier, there had been a second name listed alongside Thomas Monroe's. That name was Wesley Draper. At first, it was assumed to be a clerical, or possibly a former roommate or cosigner, but Draper's name had not been removed from the lease. Further digging revealed that Draper had lived in apartment 154 before the Monroes. In fact, he had resided there for nearly 3 years and left only a few weeks before the family moved in. One detail did catch the attention of investigators. A large photo album was missing from the living room shelf. The investigation into the Monroe family murders reached a frustrating standstill by the end of the second week. A background check on the apartment revealed an overlooked but critical detail. Wesley Draper was not a stranger to law enforcement. His record was scattered but troubling. Detectives now had a potential suspect. They canvassed the neighborhood again, this time showing Draper's photo. A few residents vaguely recognized him. The most significant break came when investigators reviewed camera footage from a gas station half a mile from Shady Pines. Detectives obtained a warrant to search apartment 154 again, this time with a new focus. What they found on the device was chilling. The contents of the USB drive forced the investigation into a darker and more unsettling direction. Investigators realized what they were looking at wasn't just surveillance, it was obsession. Whoever had taken these videos had memorized the family's routine. The footage showed what time the children woke up, when Clara left to volunteer, and the exact moment Thomas usually returned home from work. Some clips were hours long, recorded in complete silence, as if the camera was simply left running while the family slept or watched television. In one particularly disturbing video, the camera was aimed down through a vent into the parents' bedroom. It remained still for 6 hours. The FBI analyzed the structure of the apartment building and confirmed something terrifying. Apartment 154, like many older buildings, had crawl spaces and access panels for plumbing and electrical maintenance. His name was circulated nationwide, his face plastered across news outlets and wanted bulletins. He was listed as armed, dangerous, and possibly mentally unstable. Leads came in from several states, but each one ended in disappointment. He had seemingly vanished without a trace. Then, in early spring, a hiker trekking through the dense woods of Hoosier National Forest in southern Indiana stumbled upon something unusual. A rusted-out camper parked deep off a service trail, half hidden behind a thicket of pine trees. He had stalked Paige, returned to apartment 154 expecting to find her, and when confronted with the reality that she was gone, he projected his hatred onto the innocent family that had moved in. These narrow passages ran along the walls and between the floors, large enough for a small adult to move through undetected. The building manager eventually sealed the unit and removed its number entirely. Apartment 154 became a ghost space, silent, empty, and untouched. A reminder of how madness can hide in plain sight, and how even the safest homes can conceal the most unimaginable horror. Like and subscribe for more gripping true crime stories. Let us know in the comments if you think the truth was fully uncovered or if there's more too. Apartment 154 then meets the eye. But when authorities arrived on the scene and forced the door open, they found a disturbing sight. On the walls, pinned with rusted nails, were newspaper clippings about the Monroe case, maps of Beavercreek, and printouts of Paige Leary's social media profiles. It became evident that Draper had descended even further into paranoia and delusion in his final days. One wall was entirely covered with erratic handwriting, angry rants, obsessive phrases, and haunting repetitions of the words taken from me. He seemed convinced that Paige had replaced him, that someone was erasing his life and rewriting it with theirs. Inside the camper, slumped over a small table, was the body of Wesley Draper. He had died by suicide. The medical examiner later estimated he had been dead for at least 6 weeks, likely not long after the Monroes were murdered. Its pages were filled with obsessive writings, including drawings and plans. Strangely, none of the entries mentioned the Monroe family by name. The other was a thick, worn photo album. Investigators identified it immediately. It was the missing item from the Monroe home. The same album Clara had kept on the living room shelf. But inside, something had changed. Draper had gone through each page and marked every photo with a red X. The cheerful memories of the Monroe family had been desecrated. Some pages were torn, others smeared with ink or coffee. One final image had been tucked into the back cover, a cutout print of Page S' old apartment listing, circled in red. Instead, page after page referred to a woman named Page, the same woman who had filed a restraining order against Draper the year before. The writing spoke of betrayal, loss, and revenge. Draper believed that Page had stolen something from him, though it was never clear what. He referenced starting over and cleansing what she left behind. Further inspection revealed makeshift bedding, food wrappers, and water bottles hidden inside the walls. When had been living there, he had come back for Paige Leary. She had once lived in apartment 154. Draper, obsessed and delusional, believed she still belonged there. When he returned and found the Monroes instead, something in his mind snapped. They were, in his eyes, intruders, occupying what he thought of as hers. The family became unintended victims of a twisted fixation meant for someone else entirely. All evidence pointed back to Wesley Draper. He had once lived in the unit and knew the building's layout intimately. It now appeared that, instead of moving out entirely, he had simply retreated into the spaces behind the walls. The Monroes had unknowingly shared their home with a hidden intruder. He had been watching them from the inside, and when the time came, he stepped out from the shadows. But another discovery changed everything. Among Draper's belongings, investigators found a torn notebook. It became clear that Draper hadn't returned for the Monroes at all. For months after the Monroe murders, the case took a final, grim turn. Despite weeks of searching, Wesley Draper had remained missing. The camper appeared abandoned at first glance. Its tires were flat, the windows fogged with condensation and grime. The camper was a time capsule of Draper's final days. Its molded food containers sat untouched. Clothing was scattered across the floor. On the table beside his body lay two objects. One was a burned photograph, what was once a picture of Paige Leary, her face now charred and blackened. With Draper's death and the evidence found in the camper, the case was officially closed. Authorities confirmed he had acted alone. Beavercreek tried to move forward, but the scars remained. The apartment was never rented again. The building manager eventually sealed the unit and removed its number entirely. Apartment 154 became a ghost space, silent, empty, and untouched. A reminder of how madness can hide in plain sight, and how even the safest homes can conceal the most unimaginable horror. Like and subscribe for more gripping true crime stories. Let us know in the comments if you think the truth was fully uncovered or if there's more too. Apartment 154 then meets the eye.